Hello and welcome back to the Birdcage. I'm Jack Kenna, joined alongside Kolton Kennon, and today we will be recapping Kansas's defeat at Missouri. It was a bad game. It was a bad game. Missouri got the best of us 76-67. Colton, I know you watched the game. What were your thoughts about this rivalry loss?
The game, although we lost by 9 points, was a lot closer than what it should have been. Missouri should have won by like 20 to 25 points. I mean, they were up 24 points at one time. But yeah, bad loss, and it just makes it worse that it's Missouri as a Kansas fan. And pretty much for everyone that watches Kansas basketball or supports them, we know that how big of a game Missouri is, but ultimately Missouri just came out to play, and I don't think Kansas was ready to play at all on Sunday.
So I want to ask you a question because this is a genuine question from somebody who has not been a fan, a quote unquote fan for a super long time. Would you rather lose to Kansas State or Missouri?
Kansas State,
Now,
100%.
now
I feel
explain.
like
Now
everyone
explain. Now explain. Because in my opinion,
Okay.
the K-State KU rivalry in my head would technically mean more. So explain why this is different.
So I guess the best way to put it is just because whenever Missouri was in the Big 12, they were a lot better than Kansas State. And this rivalry obviously goes back before
From the
before
war,
basketball. Yeah,
the
literally the
border war,
wars.
baby.
Yeah, and so that whenever we Kansas played Missouri every year, I feel like that game was circled way more on the calendar than it was Kansas State. Even like in football, I mean like Kansas versus Mizzou football in like 2008 to 2012 when both 2008 to 2010 when both teams were really good. Those games were always fun, and I don't know, like it's hard to explain. I feel like everyone at Kansas just knows Kansas State is like little bro.
Yeah,
But whereas Mizzou, we want to beat them. I don't know how to explain it, but like if you go to Kansas, you can understand.
yeah, for sure. I've heard a lot of people have a similar opinion to you. We will start this conversation in this episode by talking about, I think, the most glaring part of this entire game. Tamar Bates killed us. One. Number two, we did not take care of the ball. 22 turnovers for a top
No,
10
yeah,
team in
that
the country.
I don't think did the new AP come out?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I haven't looked at. Is KU still in the top 10?
Yeah, they're number 10 right now. Dropped from 1 to 10.
That's that's just kind of the Kansas bias. Yeah, I don't think Kansas is a top 10 or they haven't shown to be a top 10
They
team
haven't played like a
as of
top 10
late.
team this
Yeah.
week. That's
No,
for
but
sure.
it's actually kind of funny. Tamar Bates, obviously, yeah, he had 29 points, but Bleacher Report posted this thing on Instagram and they didn't even like put his name. They put in parentheses, tough guard drops 29 points on Kansas. And all the comments were like, dude, like just put his name. But
Tough,
no,
tough
dude, he
guard.
he actually he actually balled out. I mean, take
Yeah,
away the Kansas turnovers, I think Kansas wins the game, especially in the first half. But Tamar Bates
surely.
absolutely put on a show. I mean, 29 points against your rival is insane. And I think Missouri is a pretty good team. I don't think they're better than Kansas, but I think they can be competitive in the SEC. I don't think they're a top dog in the SEC, but I
Hmm.
mean, they're 8-1 and their only loss was against Memphis, and they were beating Memphis at halftime. They blew, I think, an 8-point lead or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think Missouri is pretty good. But like you said, the turnovers were god awful. I think Kansas had 15 points at one point and then 13 turnovers. And
Yeah.
I'm like not exaggerating. You missed, you said like the first 5 minutes of the game. So you probably did see this. Kansas turned the ball over on literally six straight possessions. Like it was like
Yeah.
watching the game that you referee on Saturday.
It was bad. It was bad.
It was really
If you
bad.
guys are not aware, I am a youth sports official
It
for the
was
city.
probably worse than that. 13 turnovers and 15 points is absolutely insane. Like
I'm
that's
glad.
insane.
I'm glad I kind of missed that, but sadly I didn't. I saw a lot of turnovers still.
Yeah.
That was glaring. What else was glaring is our slow start. That touches, obviously, turnovers play a big part in that. But the Kansas Jayhawks were off to an abysmal start from the field.
I
Horrible. 25 points in the first half, and they just came out flat.
I can't even remember. the last time Kansas scored 20, less than 30 points and a half. Like truly, I don't even think we did that last year, and we were
I
pretty
think they
bad
did
last
against Michigan State earlier this year.
year. Oh, well, okay. I mean,
However, the only reason I think that might be true is because I was there
I'm gonna search it, but you
and
might be right. Dude, I mean, 25 points in a
they
rivalry.
scored exactly 30 that half.
Hey, nice, nice. Yeah, but I just, it's insane. I mean, so many seniors on that team, like you can't let that happen. And obviously, I'm not the one playing, but David Coit got the start over AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin, which surprised a lot of Kansas fans, including myself, once the lineup was released.
Why do you think that is?
I, dude, I like can't tell you. I mean, I think David Coit played really well against Mizzou. I think he was our best player
I
against
think he was
Mizzou,
our best player too.
especially in that second half.
And I know Hunter led the
But
team in scoring and had a double-double, but what Diggy
uh,
brought to that team, I think, was almost more impactful. And I just wish we were able
no,
to get
yeah,
a victory because quite literally we played so much better the second half. Fought
yeah.
all the way back, down 24, fought all the way back and just couldn't get it done.
And the crazy thing is, Zeke Mayo played the first 3 minutes in the second half, and I don't think he saw the court again. AJ Storr shot really badly, but his defense was absolutely insane. I'm like, we
He
talked
played
about
really
that.
good on Tamar Bates, yeah.
Yeah. He slowed down Tamar Bates. And I mean, we've said it even in this podcast. If AJ Storr can knock down shots, he'll be insane. But you actually have to start knocking down the shots. He
Mhm.
hasn't been able to do that. I mean, he's had a couple games where he scored, I think, 12 and 15. But if you got to be able to do that consistently, especially if the offense is so stagnant. And I think Coach Self brought in players like Zeke Mayo and AJ Storr to go get a bucket whenever the offense is stagnant. And we didn't see that. We just saw a couple of pretty rough shots in that first half. But yeah, David Coit definitely, I think, played the best out of anyone on the team. And I think he's going to start again. But it really shocked me that Zeke Mayo hardly played in the second half.
We have now back-to-back games where Kansas has lost to an unranked opponent. Granted, I think both of those teams that they lost to are better than being quote unquote unranked.
Yeah.
I can't, or Creighton before the season was preseason 15. They've been riddled with injuries throughout the year. And Missouri obviously takes this game as a little more important than I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. But Missouri came out yesterday. Like that game was more important than how Kansas came out. And so you're looking at it, these aren't terrible losses for Kansas, both on the road in tough environments. But is there a problem with Kansas's offense? Creighton quite literally shut them down
I
on
think
Wednesday, and then they had a stinker in the first half on Sunday.
I think Kansas fans, I mean, whenever Kansas loses a game, the sky is falling in Lawrence, and everyone doesn't
Yeah.
think the sun will come back up, obviously. But
Yes.
uh, I'm a huge Kansas fan, obviously. Like I said, we're literally the ones talking about it, so we can't say too much about the players. But at some point,
Yep.
it's just what's Kansas's ceiling with Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams out there? I mean, Hunter Dickinson, like you said, got a double double, led the team in scoring.
Mhm.
But on Sunday, in my opinion, I think he did work like more bad things for the team than he did good things. But we also don't have a backup center that can produce those amount of points. I mean, I don't think Flory can get
Mhm.
a double double every game, and
Flory
that's
can't do what
can't happen.
Hunter does.
No, and
There's a lot of things that Flory can do better than Hunter.
yeah,
Playing that kind of role is something Flory can't do.
and it just is crazy. I mean, Kansas was down 24 points. They cut it all the way to three, I think,
Yeah.
which, I mean, if that lineup's working, keep it in there.
I
I
think
just
two was
don't
the closest Kansas got.
do.
If
It's
my
just
memory serves me right, because I think then they went down, hit a three, and it was a 5 point game again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just is absolutely insane to me that when Kansas needs offense, they leave KJ Adams in there and don't put in Zeke Mayo or Rylan Griffin. The lineup for I think about 9 minutes, a 9 minute stretch was DeJuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, AJ Storr, uh, David Coit, and then who's the next one? I forgot who the last one was, but it wasn't Zeke Mayo. And I just feel like Oh, it was KJ
Credit
Adams.
it was working.
KJ Adams. It was working, but I just feel like when you need points, you want to get scores in, and KJ Adams can't score outside of 15 feet consistently. Outside of 12 feet.
No, you're right. And you're right. And that's why I'm not going to throw a huge fit. And we've been a part of the group me for a few weeks now where this has been the big discussion. KJ Adams' play kind of limits our offensive ceiling. And I feel like everybody in the chat and everyone we've talked to comes to an agreement that that's true. But what I'm going to say is he does so many other things offensively. We all know this. Like I'm not saying your opinion's like wrong because we probably have the exact same opinion. He does a lot of things for us that are helpful. Scoring the ball is not really one of them. Like he'll have a few games here and there where he gets a lot of points. I think he had like 11 or 12 yesterday.
It,
But you hit it on the head.
I'll
Outside of
just
the paint, it's kind of like
I'll
uh
just say this. Good teams, Creighton did this. They're not going to guard KJ Adams outside of 15 feet. And
no.
he'll make a couple of floaters, but it's just so not consistent. And I'm pretty sure every single time he shoots a jumper outside of 12 feet, Kansas fans go like this until it goes in. But I'll put it this way. KJ Adams is a national championship player. He was obviously on the national championship team. He played a decent amount. He actually started one of those games that season. He played in every game that tournament, but I don't think he's a starter on a national championship team. If that I put it that way. Yes, he causes a lot of second chance opportunities. He'll hustle every play, but it's just not the right fit in the players that are around him because whenever Coach Self recruited these players to come in from the transfer portal or out of high school, he wanted to fit them around Hunter Dickinson or DeJuan Harris, not KJ Adams.
And we're missing a problem. This would be a lot easier if Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr were hitting shots at a high level. But
They're
right now
just not
that's just not
yet.
the case. That's just not the case. And Zeke Mayo is almost falling in that group again. Right? This is another game where he kind of puts up I think he had 12 or 14 against Creighton, but in that second half he kind of went invisible, which is weird
And
because
his
against
defense
North
is not as good as
Carolina,
AJ Storr's.
because against North Carolina in a game like in another big game that we saw when it got close, it was in the hands of Zeke Mayo. And so now I'm kind of confused. What's Kansas's late game situation? Who are they trying to get the ball to? If it's Hunter Dickinson, we might be in trouble. And if DeJuan Harris is going to take, I was telling everybody this during the Creighton game. If DeJuan Harris is going to lead the team in shot attempts, they're not going to win a game.
If and DeJuan Harris, once again, another player that's just loved by Kansas fans. Once again, a national championship player. Dude, he has to finish at the rim. He's missed so many layups the past couple of
And
games.
he knows that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. I think he'll fix that. But which is another reason why I don't think Kansas fans should worry too much. But
Hmm.
like you said, if what does Kansas do game situations? Yes, you can throw the ball into Hunter pretty much the entire game, but can't like whoever's Kansas is playing is gonna figure that out late game. They're gonna hedge, they're
Yeah.
gonna double team, and who's gonna step up to make the shot? No offense, I don't know who I would trust on Kansas to make a late game shot.
Does Kansas have a problem? They have too many jack of all traits, but not a master of one. I don't
Hey,
know.
I'll
That's a
say this.
phrase one of my parents used, and I think it implies to this Kansas team. We don't have
I'll
a
say
Dalton
this.
Connect. We don't have a Zach Edey. We have a
Exactly.
Hunter Dickinson. We have a DeJuan Harris. We have a Zeke Mayo, an AJ Storr, a Rylan Griffin, but we don't have a guy.
I'll
When I
say
look
this.
at, I'm gonna say one more thing before I let
No,
you.
no, no, sorry, sorry, sorry.
When I look at Kansas teams in the past, especially the 2022 team that won a national championship, I saw a guy, right? Jalen Wilson, Ochai Abaji, like those were dudes. We don't have a dude right now. That can change. We have a lot of guys that can be dudes. An AJ Storr can be a dude. I think he has potential wise, sky's the limit. A Hunter Dickinson could be the best center in college basketball. I mean, he could.
Yeah.
Is he necessarily playing like that right now? No, but he could.
I and this is obviously a conversation, like this is a whole different conversation, but you look at all the Kansas players that have been those dudes. Obviously, I've been a Kansas fan for a long time. All those players have been here for 3 or 4 years, and that's just kind of unheard of now because of the transfer portal and everything. I mean, Ochai Agbaji was the dude in 2022. Jalen Wilson was the dude in 2023. And 2021, Marcus Garrett. But if you look at those
Round.
teams, yeah, like you looked at that 2022 team, yeah, Ochai Agbaji was the leader, but everyone stepped up and made shots around him too. And
They,
Kansas doesn't have that either.
they had a transfer guard, Remy
Remy
Martin.
Martin, who
Wait,
killed Creighton.
if I'm not mistaken, was Big 12 Player of the Year preseason,
Yeah, he was, yeah.
coming off the bench.
And he took the role on his chest. Yeah, he started towards the beginning of the season, but Coach Self figured out a lineup that would work better. DeJuan Harris was out there, took the role on the chest, didn't let it affect them, which I'm not saying AJ Storr or Rylan Griffin aren't going to do that, but that is hard as a player that transfers thinking they're going to start. And Remy Martin was definitely one of the best 5 players on that team. He took it on the chest and not to bring up bad memories, won us 2 tournament games, including against Creighton and then against Providence. He won us both of those games.
It's important. I'm going to just completely disregard the fact that you brought Creighton up in a heartbreaking
I
fashion.
had to. I had to.
But it is extremely important Kansas finds something that works. Whether that's KJ Adams starting, whether that's KJ Adams on the bench, whether that's AJ Storr starting, AJ Storr on the bench. We need to find something that works and we need to find it quick because the Big 12 is going to beat itself this year.
Dude, the worst
It's
team's
hard.
Arizona right now, and Arizona's good. Like record wise, record wise.
Like the Big 12 is going to eat itself alive this year.
You
There are
said
so many hard games, and it's going to continue to just be a bloodbath, game in, game out. And if we're not prepared to go on the road at West Virginia, to go on the road at UCF coming up, to play Kansas State even on the road, like this
it'll
is
be
gonna
a rough
be
game.
we're gonna have a we're gonna be shocked again. I see a world where this I don't want to say that this is gonna be like last year, but the Big 12's better than it was last year. And if there are gonna be games where we don't hit shots, when we can't find offense, and when we come out flat like we did against Missouri, we could be in for a long season in some of those games.
Yeah, the Big 12 is a lot better than it was last year. They added a couple more teams. Colorado, they just beat UConn a couple of games ago, and UConn obviously isn't as good as they were last year, but they're still a good team.
Mhm.
But Kansas is a better team too than they were last year. But like you said, drop you can't drop West Virginia to start the season on the road. West Virginia is nowhere
Is that
near
a
as good as
road game?
it is it? Let me
I don't
see.
know if that's a road game. I know we play West Virginia to start the year, which is a team that was like
It's in Allen Fieldhouse.
competing for the Atlantis though.
Yeah, and
Like
then
that's a good basketball team who beat Arizona, who
they
beat
play at Cincy
Gonzaga.
too. At Cincy too. And Cincinnati's pretty good.
Cincinnati
Or
was a preseason top 25 team with Day Day Thomas, and I'm missing one. They have another fun name to say on that team. I know you're looking for it right now.
I actually am trying to look
The
for it.
minute you find it and you say it out loud, I'll remember it. Day Day Thomas and uh
I'm looking. I'm looking. I'm gonna be able to find it. Aziz Ban Banadongo.
no, that's not it. Keep scrolling. Jizzle
It
James.
where?
Isn't it like
Oh,
Jizzle James?
yeah, Jizzle James. Yeah. Okay.
Jizzle James and Day Day Thomas. Like that's a preseason top 25 team.
The Big
Who's
12
the
is so
coach of that
good.
team? Wes Miller?
I
That might,
closed out. But
that might not even be close. I need to look that up now. But like that's a
see,
talented team.
and the thing is, like Kansas, Iowa State, not to mention they're crazy. Kansas
Yeah, it is
plays
Wes Miller. I'm goaded.
Kansas plays at Ames during our winter break.
That's like
That'll
one of the toughest places to play in the Big 12.
we didn't get killed last year there, but
We
all
lost.
we did lose. Yeah, I feel like Kansas and Iowa State is always a good game, but Kansas will have those games where they're not able to win on the road and capitalize. I mean, every team is going to have a couple of those games, but I think what Kansas needs to do, I don't think there's enough time to figure it out before Big 12 play starts. I know we have NC State and Brown. We might have one more game. We have NC State and Brown,
NC
but
State Brown, and then it goes straight to West Virginia on New
I
Year's
don't
Eve,
know
I'm
if
pretty
that's enough
sure.
time for Kansas to figure it out.
What I will say is if shots fall against Creighton and if shots fall against Missouri, those games are different. Kansas will have more talent than every single team they play this year
No
on paper.
doubt.
On paper. Like our bench yesterday consisted of AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin.
Or but
AJ
then we
Storr,
got
who was the one of the best players in the Big Ten. Rylan Griffin, who started on a Final Four team, and a five-star freshman. We will have more talent than every team that we face this year. Whether they can find a way to put it all together, I do not know.
it'll it'll be interesting to see how NC State goes. But yeah, like you said, I think they'll win those two games because they're in Allen Fieldhouse. But I
Mhm.
mean, Kansas Kansas just has been an inconsistent team so far. Even the games you won, I mean, North Carolina almost came back from 20 points down at halftime, which shout out to Kansas. They finished that off. But if that's in Chapel Hill or neutral court, I don't know if Kansas holds on to that because Allen Fieldhouse, we were there, we were sitting next to each other. They literally carried Kansas to
That
the
place
to
was bumping.
they carried Kansas to that win.
That place was
No
bumping.
doubt.
Do you
Yes,
have any
so
final thoughts?
I, I'm excited to see what the starting lineup is against NC State. I think that'll be an indication on what Coach Self is going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if David Coit's out there. I don't think he'll ever bench KJ Adams, but I'm excited for it, and I don't think Kansas fans have too much to worry about because, like you said, Kansas will always be better on paper, and they have one of the best coaches in college basketball
Yeah.
on their sideline. So I don't think that Kansas fans have to worry too much, but it'll be interesting to see, and I think Kansas needs a sense of urgency.
Yeah. We're in the same boat. Kansas just needs to come out to play. Most nights they'll have enough to get past most opponents. I appreciate you coming on, spending your time to talk to me about Jayhawk basketball. The Kansas Jayhawks fell
Absolutely.
67-76 against Missouri yesterday. Colton, appreciate your time. Everyone else, we'll see you later.